Welcome in, Big Blue Nation, to another episode of the Cats Talk podcast. I'm your host, Cameron Johnston, joined as always by my co-host, Jacob Boyers. Jacob, long story short, Cats lost this weekend, 84-77 against Florida. I don't think that was shocking to either one of us. But the fact that the Kentucky Wildcats, the University of Kentucky, is a 9 seed in the SEC tournament and is going to be playing at 12:30 Eastern Time, 11:30 Nashville time on Wednesday, and going to be the very first game of the SEC tournament, is surprising. And man, it seems like we keep reaching new lows each time you and I get on this podcast. And what are your immediate thoughts when you hear that, just as a totality?
Yeah, I mean, brutal. Obviously, I don't really know what else to say. Something that should never happen in this program's history, right? I mean, even the COVID year when you won 9 games, you still didn't play on Wednesday in the SEC tournament. Yeah, I think Tuesday and Saturday this week of last week really kind of just summed up this team in the season. You win, obviously, one of those games, you're probably the 4 seed. I mean, just think about it from this standpoint, Cam. You win one of Auburn, Georgia, Missouri at home, Georgia, who was at home as well, or A&M. You're playing on Friday. And instead you went 0-4. It's almost impossible to kind of fathom. But that's just it's where we're at, man. Yeah, I mean, we'll obviously get into Saturday, but extremely, extremely disappointing for the way SEC went after a pretty disappointing non-conference as well. So overall, pretty frustrating regular season. We'll keep our fingers crossed and see if there's some type of run we can go on here in a week. But overall, I think just a pretty disappointing season.
Yeah, and I really want to dive into that a little bit later, but let's just talk about Saturday's game. Jake, a lot of people didn't even see the Wildcats get down to 11-0 because we were still waiting for the Tennessee and Vanderbilt game to finish up.
Yep.
But boy, when they flipped that screen, and if you weren't watching on ESPN News or watch ESPN before then, you turn it on, down immediately 11-0, and game's over from there. I mean, it's really all it is. You cut it back. You get, what was it, 13-12?
You had it 11-9, I think. So we went on a 9-0 run after, and then, 20-19.
Yeah, so, I mean, you found and it's the thing with this team, this is kind of why you and I go back and forth on what we expect from them, is the streakiness, even in game, of 11-0 against Florida, and then all of a sudden, like you mentioned there, it's 11-9, and you're right back into the game. As soon as you're back into the game, it's 20-19 with 8 minutes left in the first half. All of a sudden, you look back, and it's 33-19. It's just
in 2 minutes.
The runs that this team can't stop, and they can't stop bad runs, and they can't continue good runs either, which is it's mind-boggling. And this game, when you look at a lot of like the exterior statistics, like it's not like Florida didn't play. I wouldn't say Florida played great, and I still don't think Florida played great in either one of the games they played us, and they still handled us both times.
Yeah.
And that's more telling to me of where this program is at, is that Florida can kind of get away with playing their B-level game on the road at Rupp Arena and still beat you comfortably.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's in part twofold, because when you look at it, probably as crazy as it is to say, like over the last 6 weeks, we probably have still played Georgia the 2 toughest games that they've played in that 6-week span. So I think it does speak to, 1, just how good Florida is, but 2, how far behind this program is from, an elite level program, whether it's Florida, UConn, Duke, this year Arizona. You take your run at it. But yeah, I mean, Saturday was obviously disappointing in the fashion you lost by, pretty much getting blown out for the majority of the game until the very end. But to me, it had a much bigger issue of you put yourself in a position where you had to beat a team that I think is significantly better than you because of all the games we talked about that you dropped throughout that you shouldn't, whether home games or, at A&M, Auburn. Like, go find a way to win one of those. And Saturday's game doesn't matter as much, but you didn't. So there was a lot on Saturday's game. And you're really, outside of Otega Oweh getting hot early in the game and keeping you in it, I mean, if it's not for that, you could have been down 30 in that first half and it's over. But, I mean, me and you talked about it. I think the game obviously completely flipped off that Jasper turnover. I told you I wasn't going to dwell on it, but I do think it's, notable and worth mentioning that was one of the worst sequences we've seen out of a player that we've seen some really bad sequences. And you commit a horrific turnover and then you run down and just have, I don't know, a mind lapse. I don't know what to call it, to wrap that guy up and create an intentional foul. And then next thing you know, in the next minute and 50, Florida's up goes on a 13-0 run, and at that point, the game truly is over.
Yeah, and just it's crazy because it seems like a lot of these things are just so avoidable, and we continue to find ways in which to. And this is something you and I talked about earlier. Bad teams find a way to lose games, new ways to lose games, and in this one, like even with that, like that run there, if you just take out the initial 11-0 run, like first off, like you have Florida at home on senior day. Rupp Arena's packed. Crowd is electric. How are you starting so slow? Like how are you starting down 11-0? Because and I know you obviously you can't do this, but take that away. Like you win this game 77-73, and we'd be talking completely differently about this team right now. But the lapses in judgment that each and every single player on this team has throughout the entirety of the game is mind-boggling. Mention the Jasper turnover. And then, like, you let him get the full length of the court before then you committed a flagrant foul. Like, I don't understand what goes on with a lot of what this team's thinking. I don't understand what's going on with a lot of the coaching staff and what they're thinking. But we'll get into what Andrea Yelovich said after the game, and I think he kind of put a nice spin on it there. But you mentioned Otega in the first half. I mean, he had 17 of your team's 32 points in the first half. Like, you're talking about getting absolutely run off the floor. And that's Otega Oweh going 4 of 6 from 3.
Yeah.
Outside of Otega, this team had 15 points in the first half. 49-15 if you take Otega out. Like, what? And I told you during the game, if you told me we're down 17 at halftime and Otega's hit 4 threes, I don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Yeah, I mean, it showed. Outside of Otega, I think every single person on the team played bad, especially in the first half. I thought Denzel, that was probably his worst half of being the point guard since early January. I mean, he never looked comfortable for whatever reason. Missed a lot of open shots, even continued in the second half. Back-to-back games that you got this type of performance from Collin Chandler. I think it's pretty clear, like, this team's going to have trouble to find offensive scoring when Collin's playing that bad. But you somehow still, like, were able to hang in it because Oweh was playing probably his best half of basketball, and you were able to hang around. I mean, there's a legitimate argument that you outplayed Florida for 37 minutes of this game. Outside of the first minute to start and then the 2-minute run there at 20-19, like, I think pretty much outplayed them the rest of the game. But it takes me back to the point of, like, this is what really good teams do, and that's not something we've seen Kentucky do in years. I mean, if you go back to the early Calipari teams, like, this is what we would do. We may not have played our best game or had the best stretches, but we would go on a 3-minute stretch where we just kind of blow you out and take it to you, and you're trying to play catch up the rest of the game. And now that's what we're seeing good teams do to us, whether versus what we used to do to them.
It's sad, man.
Yeah.
It really is. We went back and forth before recording, just sharing moments of teams over the past decade and a half, just how much fun those teams were, and looking back on those memories, how exciting they were, and how we just can't get there with this team. Like, we got there at the end with last year's team. You found moments, Amari's triple-double that he had, Kobe going crazy against Florida. Like, you had those moments.
Take a buzzer beaters.
Yeah. And the fact, that's what I'm saying. Like, we're talking about all these, and even those two slipped my mind.
Yeah.
And this year, like, we obviously have Malachi's shot. Outside of that, is there anything that you're going to hang your hat on what this team did during the regular season?
That second half of St. John's was fun, I guess, is like what we can point back to that we believed for a minute.
I'm still telling you, Jake, and it still rings true. 2-0 when credentialed. So everybody call UK Athletics, call Mitch Barnhart, call whoever you need to, because 2-0 speaks for itself. I could still get down to Nashville if they need me. I'd have to pull some strings, but if they want to get me credentialed,
probably the best 2 wins of the season too.
That's people are talking. The people are talking, and that's what they're saying. They're saying that I need to be there, and I fully agree with them. Jake, I mean, I don't even necessarily want to talk about this Florida game as much as just kind of talk about this season in totality. I do want to talk on Collin, Chandler, and Denzel Aberdeen, because I think we're getting to the point in the season. I think you've seen Denzel start to struggle a little bit more as of recent. Not that it's been like a giant drop-off, but I think you're starting to see teams understand how he's attacking defenses now that he's in that point guard role. And they've obviously figured out what Collin Chandler's role is. Spot-up shooter. He's not going to put the ball on the deck and drive past you. And it's allowed Collin to basically be non-existent in back-to-back games when, you mentioned it, you just needed one to be a 4 seed and get a double bye. I mean, when you're talking about those being your second and third scoring options, like, how can you talk yourself into feeling good about this team going into a tournament?
You can't. And, like, I think when we were...
I was really teeing you up to be something positive there. Well, I was teeing you up for some positivity, and you couldn't give me any?
I mean, have you watched this team play over the last however many games?
Unfortunately, I have.
What I was going to say, though, like, when we were trying to talk ourselves into it, whether it was after Arkansas or Tennessee, and we're talking about kind of the path for this team to be successful, right? It's that you have 3 guards that you feel pretty confident in. And if the 3 of them are playing well, I think you can compete with just about anybody. And I would still feel that way, because you saw, you got blown out by Florida, so it sounds weird to say, but, like, you still had stretches outside of a couple stretches where you really kind of dominated the game. And that was with one of your 3 guards playing well. If you get all 3 to play well, I still think this team can almost beat anybody in the country. But the problem is that all 3 have shown that there's far too much inconsistency, and we've never really seen all 3 of them play well together at any point. So I don't know, man. I mean, I if Collin's not making a bunch of threes and going 6 for 8 or 6 of 9 from behind the arc, and Denzel's shooting as poor as he did on Saturday, like, I think this team's gonna clearly struggle.
Yeah, and if you want positive outlook on anything, it's that I think there's only 5 to 6 teams that you look at them and say Kentucky just can't beat them.
Yeah, I would agree.
I mean, outside of that, I think this team can beat almost anybody. To that negative, and you've seen it a lot throughout the season, they can also lose to anyone on any given day, and that's why I'm very scared for this game that we have coming up on Wednesday that we'll talk about a little bit further down the line. But, a number that you and I had talked about you probably needed to get the guards at consistently scoring wise was 60 to 65 points from your three guards. You had 47 from the three of them in this game.
28 from one of them.
Yeah. And I want to stress this like very, very much. That's with Otega getting 12 of those points from behind the 3-point line.
Yeah.
That's not something I don't think we can bank going forward. I don't think this is, he found something all of a sudden. This is just, he got open looks and he hit them. I know it's late in the season and we're almost back to the throwing things at the wall to see what sticks, but yeah, I don't think you can have Otega taking 21 shots. Like, he was great in this game. I'm not taking anything away from him. You have to draw up something offensively that doesn't predicate somebody taking that many shots in a game unless they're just on fire for whatever reason. Because even then, like, Otega was still 8 of 21. He wasn't efficient in this game. I mean, that's just under 40%. So it's not like this was an incredibly efficient game for Otega. But then you get into the point, it's like, all right, well, who do we draw these plays up for? And that's what I don't know. Pope's reasoning for not playing Yelovich, even though he had 7 points in 21 minutes, we don't force the ball into Malachi for whatever reason. And this is with, like, I thought Brandon Garrison and Mohamed Diabate were two of your best players in this game. And you still lost to Florida at home on senior night. Like, I think you're actually getting stuff from the bench and the bench bigs in particular. And yet this team still can't turn a corner. So it seems like once the bigs step up, the guards are nowhere to be found. Once the guards step up, you can't get any help from anybody else. That's where I'm at, man.
No, I think you're right. And I like what you said of, like, it's March 9th. You're getting ready to start conference tourney play. And, like, I still don't really understand what this team's identity is, right? You think it's that you have these three guards that you're going to feed and kind of play through and, play the majority of the minutes, and between the three of them completely dominate the ball and have it 95% of the time in one of their hands. And that's, like, not the case either. And then to your point, there's been some games where Malachi has played well and then you kind of go away from him. I don't really know what the identity of this team is. I still think it probably should be very guard heavy and, like, you just go with those three, but I don't know if it's the offense isn't getting drawn up for Collin over the last few or what exactly has happened, but, like, he's looked completely different than the guy we saw, Tennessee, Arkansas, that stretch, Vandy, obviously, a little bit ago, but, like, it's back to what we talked about earlier in the year. Like, maybe he just truly is a very inconsistent player, or I don't know if he's just a guy that when the offense isn't called for him, he's not going to go out there and take the shot that he doesn't feel the coaches want him to take. And I almost kind of lean towards it being that. Like, he doesn't look for it at certain times because I think the play is to go elsewhere, and he focuses more on that. But he's got to be more aggressive, and I think the coaches have to draw up the vast majority of plays to go through Oweh, Denzel, or Collin.
I want to liken this back to, like, middle of the season last year with Kobe Brea. And you remember our frustration with him not getting enough shot attempts and not getting enough looks. Yep. And what did Kobe have to do to change that, to get open looks? He had to become more of a downhill guard, get into the paint, show off that mid-range ability and the ability to play make. I mean, I just haven't seen Collin do that and take that step. Like, right now, the only thing that, I don't know if you saw that little cheat sheet that Florida had that somebody took, and they just said no threes for Collin Chandler. Like, they weren't worried about anything else, just no threes. Like, that's the only thing that they cared about. It wasn't about him getting to the paint. It wasn't about him facilitating for others or anything like that. So that is the scouting report. Yeah. And it's pretty easy to run guys off the 3-point line if you don't have to worry about them getting downhill and finishing or creating for others. And that's a step that Kobe Brea took last year that transitioned his game into being a NBA draft pick and now playing in the G League and the NBA with the Suns. That's just something you need Collin to take that step forward, and he just, for whatever reason, he has not been able to.
Yeah, and again, I don't know if that's because the coaches aren't wanting him to do that or tell him not to do that. I don't know. Or if it's completely just a Collin Chandler issue. He's not the greatest finisher around the rim. I think we've kind of have seen outside of going up and dunking. But I do think like he's shown at times in like rare instances, like he's obviously got a good mid-range jumper. Like he used that shot to beat Arkansas. Like I know that it's there. So if you ask me, like, do I want Otega taking a contested mid-range jumper or Collin? You know, especially late in the shot clock, I would prefer it to be Collin, but it doesn't seem like either he wants to take that
This
shot
might be the
or
one time we disagree on Otega taking the shot.
I just I think Collin's got more of that, you know, mid-range 2 game than we've seen or he's even attempted.
Yeah, and I also, if you remember this from earlier in the season, this was a lot of the same conversation we had around Cam Williams.
Yep.
And what did he start to do before he had that injury? He started getting downhill, finishing a little bit around the rim, and it opened up 3-point shots for him. He started finding himself open more often and more consistently. If Collin's not going to be able to do that, at least keep defenses honest. There's no reason for them to guard him any other way.
Yep.
And now that the scouting report's been out, outside of Vanderbilt just letting him have open looks for whatever reason, and that lost them the game, I don't see it stopping anytime soon.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Let me like. Do you think it is more of a like Collin issue, or do you think it's like the play calls? Where do you kind of land on it?
Just bigger picture wise, unfortunately, I think with the way this roster was constructed, we're at a point now where the offense has to run through a ball dominant shooting guard who can't shoot the three and facilitate for others. So that automatically takes out 15 to 20 shots a game that other people can't get, and the plays have to be run for him to run off of pick and rolls at the top of the key or getting him going downhill to his left. So it just takes away the ability to run things for a lot of other guys. So in that instance, yes, I do think there are less plays that are being openly drawn up for Collin to be the guy on a certain play. I also think that there's so many times during the game where you see him get the ball and there's just immediate pass off, immediate just kick it around. And it's like I don't want to say he doesn't want the ball, but it's almost, I don't know. And, we've talked about like the confidence level you can see in Collin from game to game. And if it's just truly the confidence is here today, he's going to drive downhill and take mid-range shots, or he's going to get out on the break.
Yep.
I don't know if it's that. I don't know if it's he doesn't feel comfortable with that aspect of his game yet, or if maybe it is a bigger philosophy issue with the coaching, and it's, hey, we want Denzel and Otega doing all of this off the dribble. We don't want you creating. We want you to just shoot. And then if that's the case, I think we have bigger problems, and that might be something we will talk about here in a couple minutes when we talk about the season in total. But what do you think? Like, that's just my read on the situation.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the offense primarily is designed to go through Otega, and to your point, he's not the greatest facilitator, and he's a guy that once he puts his head down, he's probably not looking up until he gets to the rim to put a shot up. And then I think it is a combination of both. Collin is a guy that if the play requires him to, make a pass to a guy on the wing or feed the post, like he's going to do it almost. That's his first natural instinct is the second he gets that ball is to make that pass rather than at times, looking to see where his man is, if he can beat him, if he can get a step. And so I do think it's probably a combination of both, but I think there's been a handful of times this year where you've kind of turned him loose and it feels like those are the games he's played the best. So I don't know. Like, I think he might just be one of those guys that if the play's not essentially drawn up for him or for him to be an option or he gets a wide open three, he's probably not taking that aggressiveness to go get it.
And
because I can promise you, there's probably some times where the play's not drawn up for Otega right away, but he
I
thinks
can
he has.
guarantee you there's
Yeah,
plays that are.
he thinks he has a step and
I
he's taking it. So like
I can
that's
guarantee
that's
you Jasper Johnson doesn't care who the threes are, who the
yeah.
plays written up for. I can guarantee you there's plays where Brandon Garrison isn't the guy it's written up for and he doesn't care. Same thing with Mohamed Diabate. And
Yep.
I mean, first off, let's go ahead and let's just get the rest of the game recap out of here. I don't think we really need to spend too much time on Trent Noah played a minute. I don't
Yep.
think we really need
I'm
to
good to wrap
discuss.
this up.
Yelovich, I don't know what the guy has to do to get more minutes. I really don't. 21 in this game. He had 4 rebounds at 21 minutes, 7 points. I'm not sure what you want the guy to do personally. I really don't. At this point, it's almost. I feel like beating a dead horse with it. He's the only, and especially when it comes to the bigs, like when we're out and running, he's the only big we have that runs the floor like that. And so like there's so many breakaway baskets that we get because he's constant. Like I'm not saying he's in elite shape, but he's constantly moving.
Yep.
And he's constantly the first big going on the floor. And a lot of that comes from the brand of basketball he played before he came over to the States. I'm to the point where I'm so frustrated by it and the lack of and I think at one point I saw Mohamed Diabate and Yelovich on the floor together for like 15 seconds and then they pulled him. But I saw it for like 15 seconds and I was like, oh my God. I couldn't even I tried to take a screenshot of it real quick, so I was watching it on my iPad. Couldn't even get the screenshot in time before he had taken him out. And like I think he's a lot of the answer. I really do. Or an answer that can at least get us to being a middle to upper SEC Pac team. And it just seems like for whatever reason, that's just not one Pope's wanting to give a solution for.
Yeah, I agree with you to an extent. I do think Yelovich was extremely bad to start this game. I mean, when you look at that 11-0 run, a lot of that, it felt like came from him, whether it was, giving up a rebound. It felt like he was out of position just about every play to kind of start that game defensively. And then honestly, like you kind of made your push there with Mo coming in. I would have liked to have seen Mo more in this game, and maybe it's because this game was played during the day with like Ramadan, maybe he was beat and couldn't give you more. I don't really know, but I would have preferred to see him. And then I am still with you. I would like to see them on the floor together. For whatever reason, Pope just doesn't view one of those guys as a 5 to go try it. Like he can never have them on the floor together. Pretty much one of them's out there at all times. Besides the handful of minutes he goes Garrison and Marino, which I think is like the worst thing you could do. But yeah, like I said, I'm with you to an extent. I still think, and it's hard to like really say too much about Yelovich because every single person on this team has weaknesses of some sort. But but I do think like there's times those like defensive I don't want to call them lapses. I think just against big, physical, strong teams that like their bigs are also fairly quick. Like he just has such a tough time guarding them. We didn't think it was as big of an issue in the non-conference, and I think in part that's because you weren't playing teams with the size that you see in the SEC and athleticism. And maybe I kind of bought into he's further along defensively than we thought, when in reality you just weren't playing those type of teams. But I don't know, man. Again, we're sitting here on March 9th, and I'm like, I'm willing to try almost anything, and like still don't really feel like you know exactly who's going to give you what and what kind of situations they should play in.
Yeah, well, all I know is that the rotation of bigs that we have been using hasn't worked with the guards for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing is you got to find a way to, I don't want to say help the guards because really these guards need to help the bigs. I think we can count on the guards a little bit more than we can the bigs. But like, can we try some cohesive basketball with like both sides of the court? And I don't know, man. The fact that it hasn't been tried and it seems like everything else has been tried, and that's like the one thing that he's adamant on not doing, makes no sense to me. Like, we got Trent Noah playing big time minutes. Jasper is still playing a fair amount of minutes. Brandon Garrison, which I'll give BG credit. I thought he was absolutely fantastic in this game. I thought this was one of his better games. It's not like a crazy stat sheet or anything. I mean, he only had 6 points. So I don't know, man. It's frustrating when you see a potential answer in getting this. Because I can promise you this, with Muhammad's ability to rebound on the offensive side of the ball and Yelovich's ability to stretch the floor on the offensive side of the ball, the shooting with the starters, and then you just sub in Muhammad Diabate, you're not going through an 11-0 stretch.
Yeah.
It's not like you're at some point the missed shots going back up from Mo. He's been terrific as of late. I'm so frustrated with the inability to try that. And I know it's not going to happen. And that's what makes me more frustrated is when you know something could work and nobody wants to try it. But hey, I mean,
Yep.
Credit to Mark Pope. He was unwilling to try it all year, and here we are with a great regular season, 19-12, and we're the 9 seed playing on Wednesday at 12:30. Congratulations.
Yeah, I'll make 2 points pretty quick. One, I am almost getting to the point, which again, this is another thing I don't think I would have said at the beginning of conference play, but like I do almost agree. Like Mo Diabate needs to be on the floor as much as possible. Like he's really playing that role that he can play extremely well. And maybe it doesn't fit into Pope's offense all that great, but like I'm to the point where I don't care. And I think to the point you would make is like if you run him out there with Yelovich, like he can be kind of your one non-shooter. And, you know, he essentially tried to will you back in that A&M game, made plays in this one that allowed you to hang around, you know, getting that to 20-19 or whatever was large in part with Mo's rebounding and kind of physicality coming off the bench.
I mean,
So,
even getting it to 11-9. I mean, he hit that three to cut it to that. So
yeah. So like I'm Mo on the floor as much as possible, and you know I am with you. I would like to see Yelovich at the 5 or Mo at the 5, however you want to kind of say it. When at times when Malachi's out. Back to Pope, and you were talking about it, like Trent's still playing big minutes, Jasper's still playing big minutes, BG's going to continue to play. I mean, Pope, even after this one, said, like, these guys are still going to help us win games in March. And back to the point I made in regards to the mass substitutions of 4, like, at what point do you say, like, it hasn't worked and it's not going to work? Like, if no offense to him, if Jasper hasn't given you anything outside of a couple stretches in 2 or 3 games over the course of a 31 game season, like at what point do you think like, oh, once the SEC tournament and March Madness starts, like that's gonna flip? That when you talk about analytics and all these statistics and stuff to back up everything you want to do, you can't try something 31 times it not work and then be like, but the 32nd, it just might. Like that, it doesn't add up, and I don't get it. And I'm with you, man. I think this is obviously a poorly constructed roster. We've talked about it till we're blue in the face, but I don't think the coaching staff has helped make this roster any better outside of a little stretch where we kind of won some games in the SEC.
do you have anything you want to get off of your chest for this game? I mean, I know we were kind of talking about how we don't think maybe Yelovich can play in these physical games. I mean, we got out rebounded by 1 rebound. It's not like this was something that was a big problem in this game. Your guards rebounded well too, actually. Otega and Denzel both pulled down 5 apiece. I think that's something you're going to need going forward from both of them. Any other big talking points you want to talk to when it comes to Kentucky, Florida?
Not so much about this game. I will say for Florida, I think they're really good. I think they're one of the 4 or 5 best teams in the country. They're going to lose in the tournament, and it's going to be because they get a you kind of see this a lot in college basketball. You get a ref that's not from your conference that calls it completely different,
Dude,
and somebody's
Chinaloo, good
gonna
Lord.
call all those travels that Condon and Chinaloo do, or the little push offs. Like those things are going to get called, and
What about the
Golden's going to lose his mind.
stepping clearly out of bounds while touching the ball at the end of the game?
That was really bad. I can't you got to make that everything's challengeable now, and that wasn't.
We didn't have a timeout. Yeah. At the time, you got to have a timeout to be able to challenge. But I mean, that's something that
had one. But yeah, I'm that's a clear. I mean, Kentucky didn't deserve to win that game. Florida gave you essentially just opportunity after opportunity by fouling on 2 free threes, a turnover, and what should have been a second turnover. Like Florida completely gave that away and allowed you to even have a potential shot at a miracle. But yeah, I'm with you. It was a pretty bad missed call, but obviously we're 35 minutes in and just now mentioning it, I think, because of the way the rest, this wasn't like the Auburn game or anything. But yeah, you see this a lot, especially with SEC teams. The game gets called so differently by SEC officials versus what you see in the tournament. And
it screws the SEC every
mark it down. The Jacob Boyers guarantee Florida's going to lose a game, and it's going to be because they are ref completely different than they have all year. And Todd Golden's going to lose his mind on the officials the entire game.
Well, Todd Golden might lose his mind on you for saying this. I might send it to him. You got his email? I'll clip out just that and send it to him, and you'll be one of the first people that if they win at all, he's going straight to your house, knocking on the door and calling you a clown.
I was going to make a very off-color joke, so we'll just move on. I'll talk about it off air.
We'll get past that. But actually, in a weird way, I think not that Kentucky's like a bad matchup for Florida, but just the way you've seen Florida play and how they're dominating everybody right now, and Kentucky still somehow keeps these games close without feeling
their 2 closest games in 6 weeks, man.
And it's without feeling like Kentucky played well either. Like I don't think Florida played their A game, but you look at Kentucky, all of the stats like 39% shooting from the floor, 34 from 3. I mean, none of that is something that you would be like, oh, yeah, Kentucky shot the lights out. That's why they were in this game.
I think 2 times in a row you've seen Florida not play their A game, but I think that's in part because Kentucky each game did some things that were pretty positive. Now they can't score well enough and efficiently enough against Florida, but I think they do a better job against Florida's offense than just about anybody else in the country.
And
they limit the second chance points. I mean, I will say that's 2 games in a row where you've rebounded pretty damn well against them.
Yeah, and I'm going to make this take here. Well, we probably make it a little bit later. I think third time Kentucky matches up with Florida. I think that'd be the one time. And it's going to be weird because here in a little bit, I'm going to tell you how I'm not sure if Kentucky beats LSU. So I understand
if you're
how
getting there, you're playing 3 straight days to get there.
I understand how asinine what I'm saying sounds, and I fully understand it. Fully just a gut feeling that I think
that's what I felt
Kentucky's able to play.
One, man.
Yeah, well, your gut's wrong now, so now it's back to me. Now I'm riding the hot hand. Now I got to get going and get clicking here.
Hopefully, since this thing's wrong so much, it can get a little smaller. I can
maybe that's what it is. Let's go. Regular season's over, Jake. You got to do the grades of the regular season. I'm going to start off because I feel like I'm known as the more cynical one. I was more cynical on the grade last year talking about Pope's first season. I'm assuming I'm going to be more cynical when it comes to this season.
I'm down pretty bad.
This season as well. You finished 19-12. You have a bad non-conference. You have a bad conference slate. You lose bad games at home.
Yep.
I'm at a D- for the season, and that's with the injuries baked in. That's really the only thing, and you didn't miss the tournament. That's like the only things that are keeping me from just failing this group and failing Mark Pope and the staff. I mean, maybe if you wanted to sit here and talk me into it, I could go to a straight, even D for the grade, but with how this team looked at certain times, and a lot of these games, it's like, even if we came back and won, we still trailed most of them.
Yep.
Like, at no point did this feel like the University of Kentucky basketball throughout this entire season. Like, there wasn't a single game I think you can point to and say, man, that felt like Kentucky Wildcats basketball.
Yep.
And you have losses to, you obviously lose to Louisville. You get destroyed by Michigan State. You let one slip away against a bad North Carolina team, destroyed by Gonzaga. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we come back with some okay wins and then destroyed by Bama. A bad loss to Missouri at home. You find a way to beat LSU by the skin of your teeth down there. And then start winning some games again. And then all of a sudden you go to Vanderbilt down in Nashville again, Jake, and you lose by 25. And then immediately after, you beat Arkansas on the road. So the season's up and down. I just think there was a lot more bad than there was good, even though there was really good. I'm not going to try and say there wasn't really good moments of the season, but that's where I land. And I bought you a lot of time to think about your grade. Right. Mr. Jacob Boyers, hit me with it.
Yeah, I appreciate you giving me some time, but I didn't really need it. I'm right there with you, man. I would maybe, like, if you ask me my initial thoughts, it's probably a D. The only thing that I think complete failure F is if you're sitting here and you're on the outside looking into the tournament right now, which, even if they do go and lose Wednesday, you're going to make the tournament. But that's obviously not the number one goal of Kentucky. So I am with you. It's a extremely disappointing season, and I'm there with you at a D minus. Just Florida, Alabama, Arkansas, Vandy, Tennessee, A&M, Georgia, and Missouri are 8 teams that finish better than Kentucky. There should be no season where Georgia and Missouri are finishing over you, and really even probably A&M,
yeah,
and Vanderbilt. Like, I mentioned this after Tuesday's game, like, over the last 2 years, you're 0-2 against Georgia. You're, whatever, all these crazy statistics. A&M's won 4 or 5 against you. South Carolina's won 3 of 5, and you didn't play particularly well.
You haven't sniffed a win against Alabama.
You haven't sniffed a win against Alabama. You played Florida for 80 minutes this year and never led for a second. Vandy's, you beat them at home this year, but you lost there this year and on the road. The non-conference was extremely bad. You got absolutely ran off the floor against Michigan State and Gonzaga. You practically got blown out against Louisville. You made a little push in the second half to, make it close.
And that felt better at the times. You thought Louisville was going to be good.
Yeah.
And now you're just realizing they're a middling ACC team.
Yep. And, you hit it. There's so many games that you were never really in or had a chance to win from Alabama, both of the Florida games. You had to overcome, 32 points worth of comebacks to beat Tennessee twice. Now, you do get credit because you won the game, but constantly being down big. You were down 18 to who is the 16 seed in the conference that you're going to be playing here.
Yeah.
And it took a full court pass and a buzzer beater to survive that one. Like, it's extremely, extremely disappointing. And, we talk about Kentucky should be a top 5 program, and they definitely should be. I'm not going to say we're Indiana. I still think, maybe if we did this for another 10 years, then we can have a different conversation. But, like, right now, when you look at it, there's probably 4 or 5 programs in the SEC you say are in a better place than Kentucky right now with coaching and, what they've done in the NIL era versus what Kentucky's done since COVID. Like, I think it's as bad as it really could be. And this week was as frustrating with me with this coaching staff as anything. We went into at length about all the decisions I thought were so bad in that A&M game, a game you shouldn't have lost. And not only did you lose it, you went from up 12 or 11, whatever it was, to getting ran off the floor.
Mm-hmm.
This
the
game,
Missouri game, same thing.
Yeah. Georgia, you're up 9 late in the first half, and you go into halftime trailing and then lose, and you're down 6 to 8 points for the entire second half, and never really sniffed getting back in it.
Yeah, I'd be very intrigued to see, like, I don't know how we'd look at it, but just going through all the games and see how many minutes of games we led versus how many minutes of games where we were losing. Because I got a feeling it's a lot worse than you would think.
Just think about Tennessee. The Tennessee game in Knoxville, you never led until 46 seconds to go or whatever.
Yeah.
And at home, you led early, but then you didn't lead again until a minute 30 or whatever it was when Chandler hit the 3.
To talk to your point there, and this is how I'll transition from going from our full season recap to the SEC tournament. We play LSU, the 16 seed, worst team in the conference, on Wednesday afternoon in Nashville. That game, LSU led for 36 minutes.
Yep.
We led for a minute and 10.
And you were down 18.
Our largest lead was 1 point. Their largest lead was 18.
Yep.
I think that snapshot of that game can speak for the grade you need to give this season.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about this LSU game a little bit more and kind of just talk about how the bracket ended up falling in general. Because everything on Saturday fell the way you needed it to. All you had to do was get that win to get the double bye and be in a spot where you'd be where Vanderbilt is, where they wouldn't be playing until Friday at 3:30. You obviously can't get the job done, and I don't think either one of us are frustrated that they lost to Florida. Florida's a really good team. You can lose to a really good team at any time. I don't think we're frustrated by that.
It was the fact you put yourself in that position with the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's more of the fact that the same ways that we continue to lose games was the way in which you lost this one. But then you have Oklahoma and Texas playing each other. Right? That's who it was, right?
Yeah.
And all you needed was Texas to win, and they would have had the 9 seed, and you could have played Ole Miss Wednesday at 7 p.m. instead of Jake Georgia. And I not doing any work on Wednesday. Because now we're not going to be able to get any work done.
Yeah.
And it's just not going to happen. So the way Kentucky's path to an SEC championship would look, LSU on Wednesday, if they were to win that game, they will play Missouri. If they were to win that game, you have to play Florida. And then you have to win 2 more games to win the SEC championship. We're talking about 5 games in 5 days. And I know you remember what our fearless leader and Mark Pope said.
Yep.
Those Saturday to Tuesday turnarounds are too tough for us, and we can't do it. So I'm going to let you talk about the LSU game first because I'm still debating on what I want to go. I told you a little bit off air of where I might go with this prediction, but I'm going to let you lead the way with this one.
I mean, I told you, I don't feel good about it, and that's insane to say, right? We're talking about the team that just finished worst in the conference, and you're like, you don't feel good about it.
Team that went 3-15 in conference play and is 15-16.
Yeah. I lean towards Kentucky winning, but I think it's going to be another game where I think it'll actually probably play out fairly similar to the South Carolina game, where we're this team is incredibly frustrating. LSU hangs around for 37 minutes. I don't expect it to be at LSU where you're down 18 and have to come back. I think it's just going to be one of those games where Kentucky's winning for the majority of it, but there's countless times where you're go put this game away, and they just don't. They allow LSU to hang around. LSU makes a couple shots. Next thing you know, there's 3 minutes to go, and you're tied or up 1 or something, and me and you are going to be texting each other what the hell is going on? And I think they kind of pull away at the end, like you saw with South Carolina, but it's not a game I feel good about in any sense. And like, I think you agree, like, I would not be shocked one way or another if there's a minute to go and this is a tie game or LSU's leading.
I don't want to
I
say
would
what I'm
be
going to say.
surprised if you get down 10, 15 plus again. I will say that.
I really don't want to say what I'm going to say. But Big Blue Nation, before I do forget,
Say it.
$20 tickets to go to this game. And that's probably the cheapest you're ever going to be able to watch the Kentucky Wildcats in Nashville. So if I know a lot of people don't plan on getting to Nashville, my parents and family included, until Thursday, because, the University of Kentucky playing on a Wednesday was that's just not supposed to happen.
It's never happened.
But if you can get down there, if you can skip an extra day of work, get there. Tickets are cheap, so get them while you can. I think LSU's playing better than when we saw them. I really do. I don't know if I can say we're playing that much better than when we saw them. This is a team that just took Texas A&M into 3 overtimes, a Texas A&M team that kind of just dominated you. The team, they just beat Ole Miss late February. That one went to overtime. So for the most part, when LSU does get in these tight games down the stretch, they usually find a way to win. Of course, not with Malachi shooting a mid-range jump shot.
I know we've talked about it, but like, we just have to think about the absurdity of that shot. Like, what is the percentage on that? Like, 0.005? like LSU probably had a 99.5% chance to win that game or whatever. So like, it's absolutely absurd.
This is kind of what I want to get into. Just looking at, this LSU game was a while ago. This was on January 14th. So trying to remember a lot of just the in-game innuendos of what happened. You got 21 points from Otega in that one, who hit 3 threes. You had Cam Williams healthy that game. Collin Chandler hit a couple of threes. Denzel Aberdeen had 17 points. You got double digits from both Malachi and Andrea Jelovich. You shot 43% from 3 in this game. And you won by 1.
And we're down 18.
And you were down 18. You were losing for 35 minutes and 37 seconds of this game. I'm having a real hard time feeling confident to pick Kentucky to win. I have a hard time feeling confident to pick LSU to win just because LSU is a very bad team.
Right.
But they're playing better as of late.
2 bad teams going on it here.
And the thing is at least with LSU, there's a sense of desperateness. Like, they know if they want any sort of chance in participating in March Madness, it's sweeping the table here. Kentucky knows they don't necessarily have to go down there and win any of these games to go play another one. Jake, I really hate to say it, and I really do, and I hope I'm wrong. I hope this is the stupidest thing I've ever done. I'm going to pick LSU to win this game. And I think it'll speak lots to where this program is at. I think you were talking about we're not at Indiana levels yet. I think we are trending very hard to that level. I think Indiana's
Indiana's 30, made like 116, Sweet 16 in the last 15 years. So
I fully agree with you. But we're also getting close to 1 in a decade. We're starting to get closer to numbers like that. I'm like at very early stages. I'm not saying we're the next Indiana because theirs has been like 30 years. And also Indiana was never the size of program we are either, which is why it makes this more, the urgency to get this fixed has got to be higher. But I think if they lose first round of the SEC tournament to the 16th seed LSU, you have to take a step back and look at this program holistically. And I'm not saying that means firing Mark Pope. I will say if it was my choice to do it and say that was to transpire on Wednesday, that would probably be the direction I would go, especially given the fact that As of right now, Jake, we have Braden Hawthorne on the roster for next year, and that's it. But I'm going to let you go, and I'm going to let you get Big Blue Nation going for a Kentucky win. That's why I wanted to go first, because I didn't want to end on a sour note.
Like I said, I don't really know how much I can get Big Blue Nation going, because I think it's going to be a game Kentucky wins, but we all walk out of there and we're like, we don't feel any better about this team one way or another. So, I mean, if you're asking for a score, I'll say Kentucky 83, LSU 76. But again, I think it's going to be a game where you're going to have chances to put your foot on the gas and put it away, and we're not going to do it. I think we'll probably see one of those runs, especially in the first half. Maybe you get it to 8 or 10, and then it's a Jasper turnover and, an LSU 3, and next thing you know, they're right back in it. And I think that's just kind of how the whole game's going to go. And with 2.5 minutes to go, this game's going to be tied, and Kentucky puts it away with some free throws at the end. But I do not feel good about this game, and about this team, and even with the win, I think, unless Kentucky comes out and wins by 15, 20 plus, like, I'm probably not going to feel very great about this one way or another.
And this, like I said, this is going to make no sense. I would genuinely feel better about the Thursday and Friday games if they're to win on Wednesday. And that would be beating Missouri and Florida than I do about this Wednesday game. Doesn't make sense?
I do think if they win, they get Missouri back. But I don't know about playing Florida on your third straight game they haven't played. And
there's some teams that, for whatever reason, back against the wall, just playing and not having those down times to like sit there and process games. Yeah. And there's some teams that thrive on, like, who's going for 6 games in 6 days tonight to win their conference championship. Somebody's doing that.
Georgia Southern, and they just got smoked though.
Okay, well, thanks for ruining my bet. Yeah. But that was 6 games. You only got to do 5 here. We only got 5.
Believe me, as a guy that had Georgia Southern plus 6.5 when they lost by 15 or whatever it was, I paid attention. So
I'm just to go with what I said, I'm going to say it's LSU 74, Kentucky 68. I think this is an extremely low-scoring game. Nashville just isn't good to us at this point in time. I don't know when that ship is going to. I don't know when that ship is going to be written, but I will say with the caveat here: if they win on Wednesday, Kentucky's playing on Saturday morning. You heard it here first. That makes no sense. It's a stupid take. Hearing myself say it is a stupid take.
It's not the dumbest you've ever had, but it's up there.
Well, yeah, I've said you're a nice person a couple times. That was one of the dumber takes I've ever had.
Yep. Just ask our former co-host.
Exactly. Jake, do you have anything else you want to say about what to expect for the SEC tournament? Anything you want to let Big Blue Nation in on? We didn't talk about Dink Pate. Kentucky's still meeting with him,
it looks like we got time to talk about that after we lose Wednesday.
Yeah, I know. I got to let them know. We're talking to Dink Pate still. Looks like Kentucky's in good standing as of now for him being on the roster next year.
I'm going to say one thing to BBN, and this is more of just a public service announcement. I'm as frustrated with this team as anybody. Don't let them steal your joy, BBN. This is the greatest, 2 weeks right here, conference tourney through the first round of the NCAA tournament. Like, as bad as, in the words of Johnny Manziel, win or lose, we booze. And I'm going to be enjoying myself, this weekend, next Thursday and Friday, not being at work. And unfortunately, I'm just to the point where I expect this team to not perform very well. And who knows, maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised as we go on a little run here in the last 2 weeks. But yeah, enjoy it, BBN. It's a fun time of the year, and obviously it'd be a little more fun if we were talking about the old Kentucky days of we're going to be a 1 seed and what kind of path are we going to get to the Final Four. But unfortunately for right now, those days are done. You know, they'll come back. I'm not saying we're Indiana. We'll be back. But right now it's just it's not where we're at, unfortunately, as a program.
Well, Jake, if I could spin that into any good news, this Kentucky team can beat almost anybody in March. Unfortunately, they can almost lose to anybody, but all you got to do is get hot. Get some guys, get hot in March. Let's have a good March Madness. And guess what, Jake? You and I will have all of Big Blue Nation covered for the SEC tournament, March Madness, and anything in between. So make sure you follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, iHeart Music, wherever you get your podcasts, we're anywhere. Jake's usually clowning somebody on X, whether that be – who are you going after now, Jake? Anybody in particular? Still Seth Greenberg as always?
It's man, it's hard to get motivated to go after anybody right now.
It is.
I
But
gotta be
also,
honest.
something you can get motivated behind. Spring practices are coming up, and we'll have you covered for things like that too, whether it's Kentucky football, Kentucky basketball, or anything you guys want to talk about. Cats Talk Podcast will be here for you. That's all Jacob and I will have for this one. Until next time, go Big Blue.
Go Big Blue.